Oh, we can pull that up really quick. Do you have it? So we were talking about like schools being indoctrination. So Maddie was in a class.
This was my college success class that basically helps you
we'll come back to it. Go ahead.
Throughout college, and it gives you a lot of good advice. But this is one of the assignments I came across, and this was in a textbook.
It's college success like 101 or something?
Yeah, yeah.
And actually,
like
I used to...
Personal development, like...
And a lot of people take this class.
Yeah,
a lot
of people take this
there.
class.
What's that?
I've never heard
it's
of
not
this.
It's getting worse over the years, girl. I'm telling you.
I went to school like not that long ago.
It's not required, 24. But...
It's not required, but a lot of people
Okay,
do.
so it's not required.
Easy credit,
yeah.
basically.
Okay.
You know?
I was like, I've never heard of this course.
Wait, so can you read it, Maddie?
So it basically gives you a list of more privileged individuals in the world and less privileged. And on the more privileged side, it says male, white, heterosexual, affluent, and English speaking.
Inherently, those are all more privileged people than someone who is female, person of color, LGBTQ, poor, or non-English
but
speaking.
That's the indoctrination that we're talking about.
That's
that
not indoctrination, that's a fact.
It's highly dependent on
hold on.
Inherently, on average, in America, let's not talk about other worlds. In America, on average, right? Why do we have rules and laws to protect females, people of color, and LGBTQ community? Because they were less privileged.
I think protection is one thing, but
fake news. Hold on.
Erroneous.
It would be one thing if they were. I get the indoctrinating.
Wait,
I do see it sometimes.
This is at Santa
I just
Barbara.
don't think that's a good.
This is at a
piece
city
of
college.
evidence.
This is Santa Barbara City College, Madison?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I went to UCSB. So that might be why I didn't see it. UCS. I went to
I went to
UCLA.
I went to UCLA, and the indoctrination, not just for gender roles and stuff like this, but for also things like Marxism. Like,
are you a Marxist, Kiko?
The indoctrination is absolutely insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
I think that was a good piece of
it also doesn't have to be in the curriculum. A lot of people who are teaching it can just like insert it.
Right.
Be like, oh, for example, there's blah 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 blah. And
that's true.
Yeah.
I've had both.
Wait, pull it up one more time, Nick.
It's also coming from like a person who
Who's the
doesn't.
teacher? Is it a woman or a man?
Privilege is an advantage
woman.
resulting from above differences.
As a person who doesn't feel less privileged as a
wait.
female and a non-white person, it's
The
just
only
basically
one I
teaching
can
me
agree
that
with,
I'm
the only
less
one I agree with, is the fourth one.
Yep.
Yeah, poor affluent.
Yeah.
Of
I agree with
course.
Right.
Of course.
On average, if we, why? Okay. I don't feel like I'm just talking.
This wasn't the only thing that popped up.
Let's
like
talk about
talking about
male.
if we, on average in America.
Let's talk about male and white. Let's talk about those.
Yes,
So do
white
you think
males
men,
are inherently
no,
more
hold on.
privileged
Let's just
than
start with
a
males.
black woman.
Hold on.
What do you mean?
Let's start with males.
Black women.
The
Slavery was like not even that long. Like, what are we talking about right now? Like,
Equity and equality.
Wait,
literally have a woman out here saying that women shouldn't have the right to vote anymore.
Do you know white people were slaves too? Do you know that?
Oh my God, the Italians and the Irish.
The longest string of
Off to the
slavery
Jews.
ever was Korea. It was like 1,500
People of color
years.
are still in that.
Do you know
They
what
would still be
slave?
placed under
Do
people
you know
of
what the
color.
word slave comes from?
Slavic.
Do you know what it
region.
comes from?
What are we talking about right now? Are we talking about America or are we talking about the world? I thought we were talking about America. In America, we were predominantly slaves. Black people. No,
Black
am I
people,
wrong?
There was white slaves
my God.
too.
Black
Sure, but who was
slaves.
predominantly the slaves in America?
Well, I mean, there was also like black slave owners.
Okay,
Sure. Okay. Why are we not answering?
but
Why are we
Here.
answering my question with something else?
like
Clico, listen up.
I'd rather have Kuko.
Kuko. Okay, Kuko. Cucko.
You're the Kuko.
You're the cucko.
Cookie.
Right, goofy.
All right, look. Okay, let's start with male. You said that males have more privilege than females.
I said inherently. I'm not saying every single man
Inherently?
born has.
What do you mean inherently?
Like, do you want me to pull up the Google definition for what the word means? I mean inherently, on average.
On average?
I'm not saying every single man, every single white man that is born has more privilege than
just
me or
male.
whatever.
Forget white.
Okay,
Just male.
I'm not
Just
saying
male.
every male has more privilege than me just from being born, but there is a step up that a lot of them are given.
A step.
In what
society.
aspect?
Step up.
Maybe when it comes to privilege, right? Even for example, my parents, right? My mom is a black woman. My dad is a white man. Dad's family, millionaires. Mom's family, addicts in East Oakland. Like I can go down the list of a lot of people I know, and that's just one example of.
Cool. You have an anecdote.
It's okay, but that's like.
Here, stick to male. Stick to male.
That's what. Okay. Well, I'm saying my. All right.
What if your dad was black, and the poor one, and there were drugs involved?
Well,
and your mom was white and affluent.
Well, that's why they have white. And they have male.
God. Okay.
And they have
Intersection.
but
Blah, blah,
you don't have to check off every box.
No, and I get what you're saying, but the issue is how do you decipher that? Because, for instance, I grew up very, very poor. So going into college, they automatically all assume and give a lot of resources to people of color. Yet they might have came from a background that was more financially supported than my background, yet I had less help and resources
I'm so
available
sorry
to
that
me.
happened for you, but in my school, it was all based on income. It had nothing to do with if you were black, white, this.
Wait,
it was just based on your income
okay.
and if your parents had
Let's bring it back to,
graduated.
we're going to
And
bring
based on income, people
Kiko,
graduated, most people of color needed
Kiko.
help. But I do
Holy
understand
fuck,
that.
shut up. Okay.
Don't fucking stop.
Bro,
You've already
because
done it twice. Don't start telling me to shut up, Ryan.
I am, because
No.
when I'm trying to redirect the conversation, you just continue yapping and yapping and
She was
yapping.
yapping too. Tell her to shut up
Real
too then.
quick.
No, but
though,
what's up?
So at work the other day, I had this conversation with somebody, a Hispanic girl that I work with, or El Salvadorian to be specific, made a joke that she was getting her nails done and she loved watching a white woman work for her. Now another girl that I work with, white, got really mad at this statement and said that it was kind of reversed racist, right? But she was using it as dark humor because I'm sure her whole life she heard that people loved watching Salvadorians or Mexicans or Spanish people work their ass off for white people. So she was using it as dark humor. What would you guys say about that? Or agree with or not agree with?
I was told to shut up, actually, so I'm gonna be quiet.
No, because I feel like this is a really good conversation,
Yeah.
and I feel like it is a continuing problem where as soon as people are held accountable for certain things, now obviously you have your extremes, people who take it a little too far on both sides. 100%, you're always going to have that. But like for her, I feel like she was just kind of making a joke because for generations she felt that. But she wasn't
Yes, it's a
saying that she
racist
doesn't-
statement. It's a racist statement.
It's a reverse racist statement. Maybe if she like made a joke to her and was like, "Oh, haha, so funny, the roles are reversed," but for her to say something like it feels good to have another ethnicity do this for me because of the historical dynamics of things, that is reverse
Yes,
racism.
it's a racist statement. Okay, explain to me how males have privilege over women.
I'm over it.
What do you mean you're over it?
I'm over it. You can't tell me to shut up while I'm talking and think I'm going to continue the conversation. We can talk about something else, but I'm not talking about this anymore.
No, we are talking about it. Bro, every time you get like derailed into these side conversations, the reason I told you to shut up is because I've been trying to get an answer from you on this.
It's not a derailment. It's a part of the conversation. We were getting somewhere, and I might have been
Right,
able
but
to
if I'm
answer that.
if
but
I'm
then
like
you
coming
completely
in,
cut it off.
if I'm coming in, I need you to yield to me so I can keep things fucking focused. Because if I wasn't even doing the bare minimum to keep things focused, bro, this conversation would just be all over the fucking place.
Totally understandable.
Okay, so answer the question.
I'm okay.
Nah, you're gonna answer the question.
Or what, Brian? Like, I don't have to answer it if I don't want to. People
Yeah,
don't
because
answer
that's-
questions all the time, and you move on to the next person.
Nah,
so
but
you can move on and ask them what they
Don't be butthurt because I told
I'm
you
not
to
butthurt.
shut up, Kiko.
I lost my whole
Don't
train
be-
of thought. I lost everything I was speaking about.
Let me
It's okay.
let me
them speak
restate
about
what
it.
you said. Let me restate what you said then.
Let's go.
You said that males are privileged over females.
Inherently and through history. Yes, inherently through history.
Okay, how?
When they had the right to vote before we did. They had the right to own land before we did. They had the right to work before we did. Anything else? The fact that we had to earn a right to vote should say enough about how men are more inherently privileged.
you didn't
the
earn
fact
it.
that we've
You
never.
didn't earn it.
No.
You
Okay,
didn't
sorry.
earn
The
it.
fact
It
that we
didn't-
didn't have it to begin with.
You
the fact
got
that
the right
we've
to
only
vote.
had we've had what 49 presidents. What president are we on now? And they've all been
male.
Male.
I
Oh,
was
sorry.
gonna bring that up
Apex
right
White
now.
male
fallacy.
besides one.
Apex fallacy.
So it's things like that that show us the fact that these things even exist for a reason, which I get what you're saying when it's teaching you, oh, when I come in, I'm teaching, it's showing me that I'm so less privileged. First of all, that's a flaw on yourself because I've never seen those things and thought that way. I think if anything, it just brings attention to people who might not realize how much privilege they have just from the person they were born as. Some people don't realize that, and it does great justice for them to be able to recognize their privilege and use it for good. So it's not supposed to show people, oh, if you're black or a woman or gay, then you're just less privileged and you're screwed.
I don't know if we can reference history as an example for this.
Why not?
But what about today?
Why
Today?
can we not reference history? Because even still
Here,
now, to
I'll
this
even
day-
engage. Wait, let me come in. I will even fucking engage with you guys historically. I'm prepared to say
Yeah.
that actually, even historically, men had it worse than women.
Agreed.
And if you want to look at the apex, you want to look at the 1% of men who had power, fine.
The
We can.
1%
You
of
want to look at the
men that
one
have
less than
power?
1% of men who had power. Cool. That's not about men and women. That's about who had power. If we're looking at the vast majority of men, the vast majority of women,
In
I'm
history.
prepared to sit here and say, historically, I don't care how fucking far back you want to go. Men have always fucking had it worse. How about
I
that?
Absolutely.
So get the
disagree.
No.
Because for a long
Women in
time
history
in
have had-
history, women weren't even allowed
Women
to
were
be
privileged.
talked unless
Women
they
were
were talked
privileged.
to. They had to stay in the house. All these rules, women had to stay in their place. Right? Men decided that.
It's like
At
that
the
joke,
end-
and now women
If you,
want to.
you can
like,
phrase
complain
it as
about
poorly
working.
as you want to.
Well, yeah.
But
No, absolutely.
Hold on,
but
let Mason
still.
speak. Go ahead.
historically,
talking about
okay, hold up.
historically-
No, if we're talking historically, women didn't actually want the right to vote. You can talk about it now. Well, because they understood the privileged position they were in. A man provided for them to live, provided a place for them to raise a family. All they had to do was take care of the home, raise children, and they found
I
that
think
an
if
extremely
that was true. Sorry
well,
to
that's
cut
that's
you
just
off.
for most of history.
I feel like if that were true, women would not have ganged together to
They didn't.
fight for rights like
Oh,
that.
that's not true though. Privileged, extremely wealthy white men like pushed for women to have the right to vote.
And when
so
does
they
that
would
tell
be
you
in the
that if men don't want it, we can't have it? Thank you. Like what?
No, because women didn't want it. It's only this
But the
recent
reason why it
phenomenon.
was able for us to get it is because white men wanted us to have it, so we got it. So what does that say?
Well,
white men dictate. what
because they're
fucking
taking
happens.
because they
can't
can
believe
take
I'm feeling like
advantage
white people
of
are
this.
There was a different
crazy
motive
right
than
now.
them just wanting women to vote behind them pushing women
Yeah,
to vote.
because then all of a sudden,
I
if
don't
they
care what their
if they
motivation
start
was. I'm just saying it only happened because a white man wanted it to.
Which proves
I'm
the point
prepared to make
deeper,
historical
truthfully.
arguments. We can go back. Let's go back to the 1910s when women didn't have the right to vote. Let's laser in.
And we were
on the-
segregated and a bunch of other stuff.
Let's go back to the 1910s. So women got the right to vote in 1918, I believe, or was it ratified in 1920? My years might be slightly off there. So, would you prefer to be an 18-year-old man or an 18-year-old woman in 1914?
18-year-old man.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because you know what else happened in. Can somebody fix that?
That's the second time.
You know what else?
Take it off.
God. Did the popcorn spill again? Okay.
Whatever.
You know what else happened in 1914?
What?
World War One. Okay.
I would love to fight for my country if I was a man.
That's.
I'm literally a criminology and criminal justice major who's going to fight
You
probably
realize-
for my counties and serve them. So I think, yes, as
World
a
War
man, I would
One-
want to serve my country.
It's not a privilege to fight in war.
It's not-
I understand you're not saying it's a privilege to fight in war,
Yeah.
but it's also something that us in our society we have no grasp over. I don't have a grasp over it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never fought in war. I've never seen it. I mean, the closest thing I can say I've seen a dead body, and it's not exactly the same thing you would assume it would be. It's a very different experience, but people who have come back from war, they know it's an extremely unprivileged position to have to fight, to have to go do that, and then especially in their case in 1914, being forced to do so. I would find it extremely difficult to say that in 1914 I would be more privileged to be a man than a woman. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't go do it, and I wouldn't go do it gladly to protect my country. 100%, I would do that, but it wouldn't be a privileged position.
What happened to free will?
What do you mean free will?
All this privilege talk and everything. We live in America, the land of opportunity. Like, what
Well, it's
happened
really
to free
hard to have
free
a
will?
good opportunity when, say, you're born from a crackhead. any ethnicity.
You work
Like, in
hard.
any race.
You work hard.
You work hard, but you were definitely placed. You have to work harder than someone who was born with a silver spoon.
Here,
If you
why
come
don't we-
from someone-
I mean, it's
open
more
this up.
motivation.
Oh, it's more motivation.
Yeah,
Well,
because
crap,
there's
you don't have someone
a
to
lot
help
of children
you.
that come from affluent families that have no moral guide or purpose in this world because they've been given everything to them on a
but then
silver
you can't,
platter.
You can't, that's fine, but you can't say that someone who isn't born from an affluent family, who family is able to help them, maybe pay for their college, maybe get them their first car, versus someone who's born in, say, foster care,
Holy
or doesn't
fuck,
know where their next
irrelevant.
meal is.
I mean,
Stick to the
I-
fucking topic. We're going to talk about male privilege
one
and
more thing
female
before we talk
privilege.
about that.
So here, bro, because you guys keep derailing the fucking conversation. We're literally, like, it's totally derailed
But you can talk
every
about the
single
Bible
time.
for 20 minutes, but we can't talk about something that has, not that I don't love it.
It was
I love
relevant.
It, I
It
do.
pertained
was
to the
relevant.
topic.
It
I
was
feel like
relevant.
it's not pertaining to
Umbrella
So
under
look,
the same
Brian was trying to hone in
conversation.
on male versus female privilege, and then we started
Now
talking
you're
about affluent
like,
crackheads.
Yeah, it's totally derailed. Let me,
because it gets boring
it's
after
okay,
a little
hold
bit.
on,
We
let
don't
me-
want to talk about
Right?
this.
And we're
the whole
using
time.
hypotheticals and statistics to
let me
back up each other's things.
Like, you're the only one tweaking out.
let me open it up to the whole panel. So, who's more privileged, men or women?
Men.
Men.
Speaking to the mic, please.
I don't know, honestly.
Okay.
It really depends on what aspect you're talking about.
Yeah.
True.
I agree with them.
It
these
depends.
two.
Okay, those are really helpful answers here.
I'd say men.
Men.
Okay. Mason?
I would say in today's day and age, women.
I agree.
Why?
Honestly, I think I would say woman.
Why would you say that?
Because we have like pretty privilege.
That's true.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
well put. Based.
Right.
like
Well,
it-
that's
it is
why.
based.
That's why I
ugly.
say it
What about an
depends.
ugly girl? Does an ugly girl have the same
Oh.
privilege as a beautiful woman?
I guess not.
Did not matter? No.
Okay, but I think ugly man versus attractive man. Obviously, attractive men have different privileges than an ugly man. But an overall, like when we mean
Like umbrella statement.
yes, that
Umbrella statement,
regardless
it's
if they're
men.
attractive or not, men have more privilege. But if you're an attractive woman, you can have privilege. But if you're an ugly woman, then what do you get?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess
so
that's
let's
true.
go. Let's fast forward back to modern day. So if we're looking at the modern day, how do males have more privilege than women in totality? You can answer, Kiko.
I'm tired of talking.
You can talk. Go ahead.
I'm tired of talking. Can we get some other?
Well, I don't know if any of the girls want to weigh in on that.
I don't either.
Well, you were making the argument.
I'm tired of every time I try to make my argument, I'm derailing apparently. So I'm like,
No, because I'm
good.
asking you a direct question as the host. You start talking over here about crackhead babies. You see how that's
It was
different?
pertaining to the conversation.
But you see how I just asked you a
The way-
question about the topic
We're
at
talking
hand?
about affluence.
About male privilege
you want
and
to like
female
hone
privilege?
in on little words just because you're a white man and you want to focus on the man part when there's a lot of other details on that list. So I'm
Except
tired
he also
of
granted
reiterating
that
the same thing.
he said the affluent thing was a perk, was a privilege.
Yes, I've already.
He granted
yeah,
that.
I've already
so
granted it. So
why would
it's
that
not
be
even
brought
worth
into
That's only
the?
one of the 7 things
Okay,
on that
but
list.
we can get
why
to
was it
white
being
in a
brought
bit.
up then? He agreed with that.
I'm saying that you're beating a
100%.
dead horse right now. Is what I'm saying. We've already.
I'm not
debated it
beating.
and
I'm
talked
not
it.
beating a dead horse. I'm asking you to provide evidence for how men are privileged over women.
I think you're trying to say history doesn't matter, but it does. That's always going to be a framework
Women
of what
have
we
had
are
the
dealing
vote
with.
for 100 years. The vote is irrelevant.
Has it
But
been
the
100
vote
years
is
yet?
not just
It's
the only
barely-
detail that's
It's
been laid
been
out on
over
the
100
table.
years.
Yeah, that's
What's that?
Voting is not the only detail that's been laid out on the table.
Okay, so articulate to me a right or privilege that men have that women don't, perhaps as granted by the government. Can you think of any right that men have that women don't?
I told you I'm done talking about
No,
it.
you're going to talk.
I'm not. Especially if you're telling me I'm going to talk about something, I'm actually not going to do it. Here's the dominant disagreement part coming out.
Yeah.
No, it's not happening. Learn to speak to me, and then maybe I will.
Bro,
'cause you're being fucking
you're
rude.
constantly rude, Kiko.
To you, I'm really
Yes.
not, Brian. I'm actually pretty nice
Nah,
to you.
you're pretty rude. You're
Okay.
pretty rude.
When I had I had a girl screaming at me, and I was literally just sitting here giggling, but I'm fucking rude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more than one way besides being like directly, for example, Like, if I'm trying to direct the flow of the conversation and you hear me speaking and you just continue babbling on about whatever irrelevant topic it is, yes, that's rude. Especially when we say before the show, hey, if Brian's trying to like cut in and like redirect things, get things back on topic, yes, it's rude.
Okay.
girl
Everyone's been having
here.
sidebars the whole time while I've usually sat and waited and didn't say anything. Second of all, it wasn't like I was having a sidebar conversation. We were still talking about what was going on, and you didn't say, okay, you said, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, let's go over here. There's a certain way to do things, actually.
No, because I'll try to cut in and you'll just keep talking and talking.
I haven't done that.
No,
haven't.
you don't. Like the other girls, I'll give them credit. If I start talking, they'll tend to yield. But you'll just like keep fucking going. Oh, baby fucking crackheads, blah 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 blah. Like holy
You're taking
shit,
that
dude.
so out of context,
Yeah, like,
because
it literally
during that
has not
statement we were using hypotheticals. She was using a hypothetical just like you do when we're debating.
It was irrelevant to the.
We were talking about race,
yeah,
and they were saying that
No,
race
but
doesn't matter.
we were talking about male,
privilege.
female.
Because you were stuck on that, but nobody else wants to talk about that anymore, Brian. We're all moving past that point.
No, you're not.
We've already
dictating
talked about
that.
it for 20 minutes.
So why don't you just answer the question?
Because I'm over the conversation.
Well, I think you're actually just cowarding away from engaging in the debate.
I think
I've asked for
debated a lot
evidence.
about privilege
Not
as
really.
an umbrella statement, and that was part of privilege in the
Cool.
statement.
I've asked for evidence of how.
Solid.
I'm
I feel like also
asking-
most of the girls don't talk, and
Yeah,
we're trying to debate something that was actually keeping the conversation going, so it wasn't boring here.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
I think what Brian was trying to do was trying to isolate one area of privilege and then possibly move on to the others. So
It's fine, but we're saying it's taking too long. Like, we've been talking
Well,
about this for a good, 30
Well,
minutes.
the
about
reason,
this.
now
yeah.
we're having a meta conversation because you're throwing a fit and you won't just actually.
My fit, I find more entertaining than that boring-ass conversation we just had.
Or you could just engage in the conversation instead of having a meta
I'm the
conversation.
only one engaging in the conversation.
Engaging in the conversation would be if I'm asking you a question, asking you to clarify your position, instead of being like throwing a little temper tantrum, you could just answer the question.
I feel like
many times
when anyone is told to shut the fuck up or to answer a direct question, especially with the demeanor that you did, I would react the same exact way. I
Thank
absolutely
you.
would.
I
Because it is disrespectful.
Thank you.
And I understand
Or-
talking over somebody is also disrespectful and interrupting them as well. But we were on topic and we were talking about stuff. The conversation was actually flowing. That shit was
Or-
actually interesting.
How about if
It
you're
got me involved.
instructed, if you're instructed before the show and you've been on the show, what, 5, 6, 7 times, and we provide pre-show instructions that says, hey, if Brian is trying to redirect the conversation, yield to him so he can get people back on point instead of you guys totally going off into fucking anywhere. Now we're continuing to have a meta conversation, so just why don't you engage with the actual question?
I'm good off this topic now. I'm good.
You can't just say you're good.
I can. I have free
So
will.
you're conceding. Okay, so then you're conceding the argument.
Oh God.
You're just
What do you
conceding
say?
the argument.
I don't know
Look,
what
then
that
I'll just
means.
make my point.